Marshall here with this week's Sanity Check. This week we're going to talk about the relationship between other influence on our self-confidence and our own personal responsibility in it. So, to establish this clearly, there are two factors going on here. One, we're receiving feedback from another individual. And that individual is something I tend to call, if they're a person we really trust or that they have authority in our lives, I call them a trusted authority. Trusted authorities typically are parents, God, church leaders, teachers, people who have a measure of influence over us because of their position in our lives, with where we're at in our lives as well. So especially for children, our parents are God to us, and what they say is reality. So this gets in the way of it. Or it significantly impacts how we associate with ourselves emotionally. So if we have parents that are loving and kind and supportive and attentive, and they understand how to nurture confidence effectively, we'll likely be very, very confident in our own value. Now likely will come into play here in a moment. Now if we grow up with parents that are unhealthy, or they don't know how to do this, or they have mental illness, or they're narcissists, or they're abusive, we're going to develop an emotional association with ourselves for shame, burden, unwanted, unlovable, those kind of things. So that's the first part. The second part is our agreement with the feedback we're getting. Okay? So I have other influence going on, and then I have my own choice with it. Now, as children, we generally don't have a choice because we're not really thinking critically. We're just absorbing the world around us. But as our brains develop, we begin the capacity to critically think, analyze, and begin to logically, judge someone else's input on us. But because of our past, we're going to have a predisposition or a conditioned response towards certain kinds of values about ourselves. So if I grew up being nurtured in a confident, loving way, so I feel and appreciate my value, I'm going to be resistant to criticism that attacks my value, that attacks who I am, tries to diminish me. And I'm going to avoid people that do that. I'll be able to see them very clearly. But if I grew up in an abused system, or I grew up with a narcissist, or I grew up with someone who is neglectful, I'm going to have a lot of questions about that. And that's going to condition me to respond or seek approval, seek control, seek being validated and nurtured by sources outside of myself. And I'll typically choose sources that make sense to me. And that map comes from the experience I'd had with unhealthy parents, because, they're like my parents. If I can get their validation, I can be whole. I'll be enough. So this is where that likely comes in. We are making choices as adults to agree with the feedback we're getting from other adults. And if we take ownership of that power, we can start to restructure our own conclusions. So we do a process of emotional reassociation where we are reconditioning our association to ourselves for a different feeling, right? So, for instance, I used to have a lot of shame around having anxiety and having depression. And that set me up for more anxiety and more depression. Through my work with myself, I was able to recondition that. I retrained myself to feel compassion, love, acceptance, and receptivity to having anxiety and having depression. This radicalized my self-relationship because my self-esteem immediately went up. I did this in tandem with how I speak to myself, my self-talk, how I would emotionally respond to me. I was persistent in just embracing myself. Like, yep, this is shitty. It's okay. I'm okay. And then I got third-party validation as well. I started seeking out people that would understand it and ask them if I was okay if I had these feelings, and they would say yes, and I would trust them. I would choose to trust them. This process changed that whole experience for me. Because now I don't have any shame about having these things. I talk about them pretty regularly. They're part of my story, they're part of my experience. And they are part of what brought me to you, gave me the skills to help people that I work with that want to grow. So they become a gift that way. So when we take back responsibility for what we are agreeing to about ourselves that other people tell us, we gain the power to change our own self-image, confidence. And that's what this sanity check is about. It's about checking in. What am I agreeing with that is toxic to me? What am I doing that hurts me? What am I agreeing to that's negative and abusive to me? Now I can stop that, and I can turn it around, and I can say, I disagree with that. They're wrong. I'm going to become extremely skeptical of their feedback. In fact, maybe I should leave the situation, especially if this is in a relationship. And then I'm going to maybe make some choices about choosing better people to agree with. People who I can trust, that have demonstrated that they love me, they're there for my well-being, that they care about me, and that they're worth being trusted. That's what we're going for. So that's part of how we begin this process of reconstituting our self-image confidence, by not eliminating the influence of someone else, because it's just not possible. We're social beings. We take influence from others. It's about regulating that influence by choosing people who are trustworthy and eliminating people who are toxic, who do not respect us, who do not love us, who do not accept us. And that's demonstrated by how they handle our boundaries, by the way conflict is managed, because if they're getting critical, they're attacking our character, we've got a problem. That's not healthy. That's not useful. Address the problem. Don't attack the character. That's what I want you to check in this week with your relationships, with yourself. How are you talking to yourself? Are you being toxic? Are you being kind and loving? And then let's see what this does for you. Because this all builds in that idea of rooting ourselves from the approval junkie, rooting ourselves from the shame junkie or the victim junkie or the control junkie, and getting into our badass self, back into our life, so that we can kick butt, so that we can accomplish our goals. Most of all, we can just be us. We don't have to carry all that shit anymore. Okay? Thank you guys for today. Share this video with people you know will benefit from this. Put it on your wall. Put it anywhere you want to put it. Share it. Let's get this word out. Let's help people build their confidence, because that's my goal, to help at least 200,000 people in the next 5 years radically change their lives for the better. So I ask your help in that. Thank you for being a part of my community and for a part of my life and my purpose. I appreciate you. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help you with your journey. You guys have a great day. I'll talk next week. Bye-bye. Association symptoms.